This property has been farmed a lot over a long period of time, and it heavily irrigated as well. So the soils in there are really compacted, very tight, lots of cropping. We had big chemical resistant issues. That was sort of the big catalyst for why we went down this path. We couldn't beat the ryegrass resistance issues, so we sort of decided just to turn it on its head and use grazing management to control it. It's been great, yeah. It's from a profit side, but also from an ecological perspective, it's amazing really how well that country's come back, and I think it's sort of lended itself towards some of the seed bank that we've had on some of the more native areas of the property have come back. At the moment, we're running a cattle herd here. It's our main enterprise, and we're really enjoying that. That's rewarding. It's the breeding side of it I really enjoy, but then it's working out. It's a profitable enterprise to be running. This area at the moment where they're in, it's probably bigger than I thought actually. It's probably about 4 hectares, but they'll be in here usually, on the irrigation country, probably working on 1.5 hectares, 2 hectares a day for these animals. On the irrigation especially. It was all very open, and the subdivision that we've done, we used the existing paddock sizes. They were sort of 30-40 hectare paddocks, and we split them up with banks down the check banks, like permanent fences down the check banks, and then we used temporary electric fencing, Kiwi-Tech temporary electric fencing, to split the paddocks up into, we can go down to sort of hectare, half a hectare. So yeah, we're really fortunate we can have an infinite number of paddocks. We can have a 30 hectare paddock, or we can subdivide it up into 31 hectare paddocks. And there's hydrants up the middle, water hydrants, 63 mil main that we can get plenty of water on, and a temporary water trough just moves along. So we can move the cattle along to any size paddock or in any spot. And we keep a track of all that. We use the Myer grazing platform to sort of keep a record of all that, or where the cattle are, the area that they're in. What we're doing is by grazing as we are, with using the temporary electric fencing and the temporary water or mobile water, we can concentrate our animals. We can have them in a small area for a short period of time, and then they can move on and they can have impact where they are. And conversely, when we move them on, that land is getting a long recovery period. So we've got the ability to do that basically over the whole farm. And so at any point in time, the animals are in, 2 to 3 hectares, and then we might be on, this time of year, it's sort of fast growth, fast moves. So we'll probably be back in this country in sort of 60 to 90 days. But the next graze after that, we'll probably be looking at 150 days. So just depending on what time of year, we can really change that around. The other big thing that impacts that in our situation is the number of mobs that we've got. At the moment, we've actually got sort of 3 mobs on the place, so that's shortening the recovery period in all the paddocks, but that's only happening for the couple of weeks of joining, and then they'll go back into, we'll just have the 2 mobs, one being sort of bulls and then one being all the females. So the paddock we're actually standing in is called Max's as such. It's the majority of it's irrigated, and it would have been farmed, intensively farmed, probably winter cropped with irrigation for probably 20 odd years. And then in about 2011-12, we had lots of ryegrass resistance issues. So we just basically had to stop farming it, and the ryegrass just came back really thick. What's occurred here from a succession perspective was a challenge at the time, but it's really rewarding to see where we've come through that. In 2014, this paddock was as thick as you could get with thistles, to the point where with the electric fencing I had to ride through the fence, ride through the paddock and knock the thistles down, and then ride back again and knock them all over, and then ride through again on just offset a little bit to be able to put the temporary fencing up. And I still had a welding glove on out the side to put the wires on, so your knuckles and that weren't getting hit up with the Scotch thistles. And then now, we haven't done anything else with them, and yeah, there's none in here. They came in, broke up that really hard pan which would have been there from under the irrigation, and they've moved on. Last year we had a magnificent crop of Patterson's curse in here. And once again, like, it was just purple. The whole paddock was purple, and I was sort of, geez, you know, it's a bit of a worry. Are we heading to where we want to be? But then you can see now this year, it's just come back. There's a little bit around, but it's basically a lot of those grasses have come in and are filling those spots. The grazing management's been the #1 tool. From a succession perspective, we just wanted to create the conditions for the perennial grasses to come back in, really. So we're not really wanting to crop this per se longer term, but we're wanting to use the cropping, the multi-species cropping, as to hopefully improve the soils to get the perennial grasses to return. Yeah, this is a multi-species cover crop. This is a winter mix. It was sown in May this year. This paddock we sort of chose because it's got a really bad hard pan in it, and I think we'd really plateaued, or our data showed we'd really plateaued from a grazing, from our yield perspective. And so it's only 15 hectares. I just wanted to try a few different things. It's obviously 100% arable, so we could get in and sow it. What we did in here was we sowed a summer mix last year, and we could irrigate it. So we irrigated some of that, and then we sowed in May this year, which is probably a little bit late, but it's one of those things. Had a contractor come in, sowed, you know, an 8-way mix, oats, radish, vetch, field peas. There was fava beans. They didn't seem to do so well. And that was just over the top, no kill, over the top of the ryegrass and clover that was here. And then our actual plant in here, this was grazed probably about 35, 40 days ago. We'll probably graze it again within about 30 days. And hopefully by the end of October, mid-November, we'll sow another summer multi-species mix. And that'll be 3 multi-species mixes in sort of 2 years. And then we'll just sort of see what's happening with the soil, whether that's improving it or not. What's above is what's below, but there is a bit going on here. Like, the cover's not too bad. Actually drier than you think. But, you know, there's something going on there. There's an earwig there. You know, there's a reasonable amount of litter there. It is quite tight, but that there in itself is pretty good. That's all breaking down, so that's creating humus, that's what we're wanting to do. Keeping that cover on is really good. I'm a big believer of, is this action going to head me towards where we want to be heading, towards our goal? Is it addressing the root cause of the problem? From a business perspective, we just want to be profitable and truly profitable. And from a landscape perspective, we want to capture every ray of light and every drop of water that we can on our place, and manage the landscape so that it can function to be able to achieve that. And I think that sort of really resonates with us, whether that's in layers of enterprises and of what we're doing here. We're still trying to maximise photosynthesis, maximise our water cycle, and also it's got a lot to do with the people that are operating in it, us as a family and people that work with us.